Welcome to this session, Retention Curves, DAU, MAU, and more engagement DAX measures in Power BI from 0 to 100. I'm Ruben Pertusa. I'm Head of Data Analytics and AI at DUFRY, and I'm as well a Microsoft MVP on the Data Platform, running some user groups in Spain, and you're more than welcome to join us in the next conferences that we will have on the SQLSaturday Madrid, Barcelona, or even the Power BI Virtual Conf that we run with some other colleagues on the Spanish community. So if you love Power BI and you love as well the Spanish language, then I really encourage you to join this Telegram channel with more than 7,000 people already, and any of these sessions. So I pasted here as well my email, LinkedIn contact, and the Twitter handle in case you have any questions regarding this session or anything related to the Power BI ecosystem. Okay. For you that you don't know what is DUFRY, DUFRY is just the top 1 travel retailer across the globe. We are running the whole duty-free and duty-paid businesses in the airports, cruises, down street, and so, okay? We are gonna get as well Autogrill joining us, 63 countries and almost 2,300 shops running every day. The tricky part, and what I really love about being at DUFRY and being the head of the data analytics and AI, is that we are handling billions and billions of records, tickets, stock movements, prices, promos, and so. So look, I mean, if there is anyone interested on joining my team, just let me know, okay? And actually, these kind of challenges, and this is why I'm talking about this topic today, these kind of challenges are the challenges that we face every day there. So the goal of this for the next 60 minutes is for me to share with you how important and to understand the benefits of the monitoring of the user experience and how this can help us understanding the return of the investment of our analytical solutions. And at the same time, I'm going to share with you the real architecture that we have at DUFRY, how do we process and monitor this user experience, practical cases, and we will build from scratch the DAX formulas and to put them on top of all the data that you can already get. So once you leave this session, you should be able to build this in your company, in your different customers, and so. And for this, we will follow this agenda, these 4 points. We will start first to understand what is the challenge to measure and to get the return of the investment of our analytical solution, in this case, Power BI. We will try to see how the marketing and digital KPIs can help us assessing this return of the investment. And we will go through a particular data model that we will check the data prerequisites that we need to have in order to start working and measuring this information. And we will build on top of it all the DAX formulas required for getting all these marketing and digital KPIs on top of this. And one of the things we really have in our DNA at DUFRY, my team has, is monitor, monitor, monitor. In everything we have on the data ops, when we bring new data modules, when we have new KPIs, we always have full end-to-end data ops, which ends up getting my team monitoring what is if the experience is okay, if the performance is okay, if the data is right and is answering the questions that we were about to answer, it was requested to be answered from the business. There is one key after all these years. There is one way to measure the success of our analytical solution, only one, and that's adoption. And no matter what, if your solution is not adopted well, we will fail to become a data-driven company. And the first way, the first path to understand the adoption is to monitor the user experience. Why do we need to really monitor the user experience? We want to understand if the queries and the DAX measures that we have are slow, they're fast. There is no way a user will be in front of our dashboards waiting for minutes until they are loaded. They will really open them and leave for a coffee and then come back later on. That is not going to help the adoption of our solution. And this is something that we can really capture when monitoring the user experience. At the same time, not only about the speed of the queries, we want now to measure the CPU. CPU has become the key, let's say, resource counter in Power BI generation too. Now everything is measured and based on CPU usage. If we have our premium capacities or shared capacities and we go over the thresholds that we have, all the limits that we have in our capacities in terms of CPU, Power BI will throttle our queries after that, which means impacting the user experience, which means getting all of them pissed off and impacting the adoption of our reports. Of course, we may think, okay, if we want to get more CPU, let's go and get a bigger capacity in Power BI. But this, of course, brings some other topics like cost. And actually, they are not cheap. So putting more iron, scaling up just for the sake of getting a better performance, sometimes it's not a nice idea. And actually, our CTO don't like it. No, the goal is that we keep the user experience right, and at the same time, we keep the cost at the levels that the CTO is happy with it. No, and all this can help us measuring a bit the return of the investment. Of course, that is not enough. How do we really go about, measuring if we are becoming a data-driven company? No, and this is a question. Since I joined DUFRY, I was always thinking, how do we move forward and understand our final goal, which is becoming a data-driven company, get all people taking decisions based on data? How do we measure where we are on this? No, and it's not just about measuring the amount of reports that we deliver. It's really not about that. Why? Because you will see that, and the different teams have different skills. We have a new person coming, new business stakeholder coming, saying, hey, guys, team, I need a new dashboard because I want to slice and dice from this particular dimension. I want this particular KPI, which is not in the current main dashboard. Please do a new one for me. So then we end up having, one Power BI dashboard report developed. Then another one comes and asks for a different drill down, then another dashboard. And then we end up having thousands of dashboards. And when we get the new joiners into the company, looking at our analytical solution, they get scared. And really, this is the next thing they're going to say. I don't find anything. Please give me access to the data. I will build my own Excel, right? So it's really not about measuring how many reports do we have in our Power BI solution. Then how do we measure this? And for that, I wanted to jump into or to ask, how are the other companies out there measuring the engagement of the people, the adoption of their products? Okay, and this is the key word here, products. So look, let's have a look at Facebook. And at the very beginning of the year, we have a big news from Facebook. It's not like a metaverse is going to die, but the big news was that they, for the first time in their history, they started to have less daily active users. The growth was negative on that one. They lost some daily active users. So we already start looking at KPIs like the DAU, daily active users, or you can even see on the bottom some other ratios. So these are daily active users divided by monthly active users, MAU. And you can really see that their engagement is 60%, but still they are dropping. Some of the daily active users are dropping, okay? If we go and check as well some other competitors, like TikTok, for example, again, on the earnings, when they just present the results on a quarterly basis to the investors and to present what is the growth and so, they always use similar KPIs, monthly active user, daily active user, the ratios, and so. Or not only that, if you have seen this show, Silicon Valley in HBO, which I really recommend you, it's super funny. This is about a bunch of friends that they started to build their own, application, mobile application. They have a startup, they build an application, and actually they talk about what is the engagement of those users, and they become a big application, blah, blah, blah. No, that is the story, no spoilers. But if you see in one of the pictures, they used as well dashboards for the similar thing, daily active users, monthly active users, and so, which means they do have a way to measure the products. They have some KPIs that are translated into what is the engagement, how connected are my users to my product. And that is the thing. What if we think about our dashboards and our reports as our product? What if we say, you come to my solution, you spend time there, and as much time, as much activity you can give me, as much more return of investment I can get. Okay, why? Because instead of just spending time somewhere else, building your own Excel files, just talking to some other people, going to some other applications, you're spending your time, which is pretty valuable, into my portal, into my solution. Okay, so again, more activity, more return of investment. Okay, and this is really the, let's say, the leitmotif for my team since then. Everything we do, everything that we build, any new dashboard, any new improvements into the different solutions are targeting always more activity. We expect people to come more and more because they see this valuable. They get more insights instead of finding their own insights manually in their own, Excel files and so. And at the end, this is the path that we took to become a data-driven and to measure how far we are on that journey. Okay, so let me show you this one example with some fake data, or just not production data, but dev data on how this dashboard could look. Okay, so it would be nice if, for example, we can have a dashboard where we can see week by week what is the current amount of clicks and them versus the previous week. We can click on any of them. We can see actually go down by hour. We can really see what are our peak hours, which is quite important, because if we want to deliver or to deploy a new version of the our Power BI model, we want to avoid the peak hours, because once we deploy, we will kill some of the cache, which is internal cache from the Power BI, which will impact the performance. Therefore, it will impact the user experience. Or at the same time, if we really want to refresh, or we have our strategy for refreshing the data to keep it live, it's very important as well to understand what is the pattern when people are querying our models, right? Instead of avoiding, the 8 in the morning, lunchtime, we can do it during the mid-morning, mid-afternoon, and so. Same thing for the users. How many distinct users do we have across the different days versus the previous week, or even the clicks? Okay, we are having around 1,000 or 1,500 or almost 2,000 active users in our platform, and they are running millions of queries monthly. And the idea is always to measure as well, not only the queries, but the average query time that we have, okay? And keep a threshold where we can identify the health of our solution. If we always say the average query time should be below 2 seconds, my team is measuring and monitoring that if there is any peak and they see that the average query time goes up, they understand, they go and they check what are the heavy queries happening, if we deployed any new DAX, which is killing the dashboards, and so. So we know all the facts and we can react on top of this. But not only that, you can see who are our top users and what is the user experience they have. Is this working fine for them? What is the kind of dashboards that they use? And what is the experience in each of the different dashboards, right? Not only for the sake of knowing our users, but at the same time to understand that if there is any drop on the user experience on our top users, we want to target that and to react fast. If we have any new development, which is a super nice, fancy thing, the first people we are going to target are our VIP people, which are these users, because they are the key users. They are going to give us the best feedback. As they are coming, they're using it a lot. They can tell us what is useful for the different teams, and so. Same for the reports. If we want to showcase a new thing, quick insights, something for AI, any new field parameter things that are releasing super nice features there, we will target the top reports. This is like our flagship. It's like our iPhone 14 Pro. We're going to target the top reports. Let's see what is the feedback. Let's compare what was the previous feedback without that feature and after that feature. Okay, we can see the evolution of how the queries are happening, what is the engagement on this. And at the same time, we can already start talking about these digital and marketing KPIs that we saw from Facebook and from TikTok and all these companies. We can see what is the monthly active users, the weekly active users, daily active users, and so. Not only that, we can check, for example, we have, 850 monthly active users. But at the same time, we can see the ratios. Okay, out of that, what is really the ratio of those monthly active users compared to the daily active users? And in this case, for example, we can see that the engagement is growing. And if we have a look at this, we have, for example, a 38.1% daily active users versus monthly active users. Remember, the Facebook one was 66. That is the dream for any company in the world. Any startup, anyone doing software has this in mind. There is nothing better than the 66 from Facebook right now in the world. But there is already a, let's say, some default values, which tells you if you build an application, even a mobile application, and you put it in the market, in the store, and if you get more than 15% of daily active users versus monthly active users, more than 15, you're already doing good. 25 is very good. And from that to 66 from Facebook, this is the long journey, no? And this is the challenge. I want to go to the 66. We are already, in reality, right now in the production, we already are in the 40, around 40%, which means that for any user that came over the last 30 days, 38% of them are coming every single day. 38% of them. So which means if we have, I don't know, 1,000 users monthly, which means we are getting around 380 users daily, okay? Or you can see it in a different way, the opposite way, which is a user that connected to our platform for the last 30 days, that user is coming the 38% of the days of the month, which if we can just measure that we usually have around 21 days of working days, the 38% of the days will be around 10 to 12, something like that, which means if you divide by 4 for weeks, they're coming around 2 to 3 days per week, no? So they're coming every week, around 2 to 3 days average per week. We want them to come every single day. This will mean they really need the data and they're using the data to take decisions, right? That is the reason why we can use these KPIs to measure the user experience and to measure the engagement, the connection of the need of those users to our platform. We can really see on per user that there are some users, for example, this particular user has grown on engagement, on the monthly engagement. We can see some others that they have dropped a bit. We can understand why. We can try to see, okay, they dropped because they stopped using these dashboards. Maybe it's because the change we did. Maybe it's because they don't find them useful anymore. Maybe it's because they're using some others which are giving better visibility, or just maybe because they are on holidays or they got fired. Fine, but we can understand why the engagement is growing or is dropping, okay? And at the same time, we can even use retention curves to understand out of the 30 days, okay, and this is the let's say the axis, the x-axis, how many users are coming 22 days? How many users are coming 12 days of those 30 days? And how many users are coming 1 day of those 30 days? Why this? I'm pretty sure you have any subscription or any, bank account or anything, any product that from time to time when you stop using them, they send you an email saying, hey guys, we miss you. Where are you? We want you back. This is the coupon, this offer to get you back, or please find this new article, or you have this new video or anything like that, right? And they send you this because they want to re-engage with you. You lost the engagement, they want you to get back, which means for us, okay, these users are more or less, this is our core users. But it's quite interesting that we have 153 users that they came just 1 day to the platform and no more, just 1 day, and they forgot about our platform. Why is that? It's because they are missing any training. It's because they didn't find their own KPIs. It could be really nice to send a marketing action for them, right? The same as, we are a product, a bank, we are a Facebook, we are YouTube. Yeah, we are our analytics platform. We can send an email to them saying, hey guys, what is your feedback? Why you are not using our platform? Send us feedback. What is your top needs that we are not covering? It's because there was no training and that's why you got lost and you really didn't find anything useful there. Do you want us to have a proper meeting internally with you? Find these videos and so we can really leverage visuals like the Power Automate, for example. We can click on these users. You can see the list of users, and we can even send marketing actions. Could be the case that we have different marketing actions. So imagine we have different buttons, one for sending, I don't know, the glossary of the KPIs and the getting started tutorials with our platform, or we are sending just a form, an Office 365 form, or just, to schedule a meeting with them. So I just click on the button and I send a marketing action. And if I go back to my Gmail, okay, you can really see how it's coming. So I'm sending all these emails to people, and I can just more and more, okay, you can see now, and I click on one, and yeah, we can fill in this with our own, needs, marketing needs, to get them back to our platform, okay? And one last thing, not only measuring the user experience, measuring the engagement, but we can even go further and linking this with more technical data for our team to really debug when the user experience is dropping. I don't know, the user experience for this user was 1.14 average query time, but there was one query that reached 150 seconds. We can right click, drill through, and get the query performance details, which is now querying our indirect query in Power BI, querying our log analytics in Azure, which is saving all the DAX queries there, okay? So I'm not getting all the logs, all the DAX queries. That will be millions and millions. This dashboard will be huge. There is no need to store all this information. What we just need is to get, when we need to go deep into understanding the queries, to run a query directly to the log analytics, okay? So at some point, if this comes back, yeah, we will see exactly the query that we can just copy the query, go to our favorite tool, DAX Studio, and start debugging from there. Or we can use these as well in our agile methodology with the stakeholders. We can check what is the return of the investment per report. What is that? What if, let's say, every time someone comes, and we're using this methodology, yeah, by the way, anytime that someone comes saying, Ruben, I need a report. What if we go and we say, okay, we will do this report. Just tell me the amount of clicks per week, per month, I don't care, that you promise to me, the amount of activity that you promise to me. I don't care if it's just one click. Okay, this is a report for the CEO. If he will just open that report once a week, fine, just one click. Or I expect my whole team globally to use this. I don't know, 500 clicks per week. We can measure it and actually see this as a target, and even right click, check the return of investment evolution, and really see if we are achieving those targets month by month. Again, for the sake of not only knowing how data-driven we are, but at the same time, to really challenge them back when the next time they come saying, I need this dashboard for tomorrow, ASAP. This is very, very important. And for whatever reason, they are not giving us the proper evolution or the proper return of investment, like this one, we will go back next time saying, look, we spent a lot of effort, hours from the team building this. You promised all this amount of clicks. No one is really using this. You didn't really get properly the needs from the different users and the team members. And next time, unless you give us a better requirements, we will not put this as a priority. Okay, so this can be really useful for our relationship with the different stakeholders. Okay, going back to the slides. Now, how do we build this? Okay, so we can connect Power BI with a bunch of APIs. So the Power BI admin APIs that can give us the list of the catalog of the reports, users, workspaces, and so on. We can classify them by area and by seniority, and so we can get the API, the activity log, that actually is the one having the log of all the clicks, openings, exports, and anything that is happening behind the scenes in Power BI, in the Power BI portal. Okay, we can use as well the report server on-prem. We can connect Power BI with our Active Directory to get the list of users, to get the areas, the department, and all this. And we can even connect through the on-premises data sources to check performance and so. If we think about the architecture behind the scenes that we have right now for this particular engagement analytics, we have one particular dashboard that is connecting to that activity log API. And in order to collect all this information, we have Azure Data Factory querying that API once a day at the end of the day. I mean, in our case, in production, because we have a more real-time thing, we are querying this every hour, every 2 hours. And we store this information in the data lake generation too, as a JSON that we can use, we can query through Power BI. We query as well the log analytics, as you saw, where we are storing all the activity from the different dashboards, queries, processing, commands, and anything. And we as well, and this is something I'm not going to tackle today in this demo, but we even have alerts that when we reach a particular CPU limit, or when we see that some queries are above the threshold that we consider nice and healthy user experience, Azure Alerts triggers Power Automate and a logic app that writes back a message in Teams. Okay, so my team gets a notification live that something is really not healthy in the system. Okay, and regarding the model, regarding the Power BI dashboard, which is what we're going to focus today, we have this star schema. We have some dimensions on top, the user dimension that we can get it from the, as we said, from the API from the Active Directory, Azure Active Directory. The dimension, the reports dimension that we get it from the admin workspace, the admin APIs in Power BI. We can get the workspace, get info, and all the reports. The date, the particular data dimension that we can, there are a bunch of different scripts on the community, in Power Query, in DAX, everywhere, even in SQL views to get this date dimension, and the same for the time. Okay, and we can connect all these 4 dimensions into 3 fact tables. The first one, the Power BI log, which is sourced through the API activity log that I told you we are collecting through Data Factory and storing it in the data lake. We do have as well a query, aggregated query that we run against the log analytics to just get by user, by day, and by report the average query time, just the average query time. And we store all these dimensions and these 2 fact tables as import in memory. Okay, and actually it's not big. Even the log, the activity log is not that big, so it's a really reasonable Power BI model in our capacity. And the last one is the direct query connection to the log analytics. So whenever we want to go deep and understand the details of the DAX queries or MDX queries happening behind the scenes, we connect through directly through direct query to the log analytics. Okay, so now let's go back to the demo. And the first thing I want you to see is we can really have one table, which is this Power BI log, which is the fact table where we have all the activity. We can see all the operations happening. Really, we can measure if they delete a dashboard, if they create reports on their own, if they're exporting the data of a report, which is quite important for understanding how useful is the dashboards, the clicks, which is the view report. Okay, and any other activity that is happening. This is through the activity log API that we store in the data lake, and then we query and ingest into our Power BI. Okay, and on the other side we have the time, the user, and the commitments. Now, in this case, we can really check, for example, for this particular report ID in this area, this is the development effort, and at the same time, this is the monthly commitment that they told us, and this is the one that we're going to check through the target. Okay, so now, okay, we have mainly the Power BI log, which is the activity log. How do we build all these KPIs, the DAU, the daily active users, the monthly active users, and so on? So I'm going to open a DAX Studio, and let me just get this template for you, and we're going to build it from scratch. Okay, so I am connecting through my engagement analytics, and one of the things we're going to do is to create the 2 base KPIs, which is the amount of clicks. And by the way, this is not just clicks, okay? Even if you open a dashboard and then you do 20 clicks in different visuals, behind the scenes, the activity log will store only one record in that activity, which is view report, okay? So it's actually not measuring all the clicks that you do internally in a dashboard, but actually the amount of openings, okay? And when you lose on the session and you get a new session, again, that is translated into a new record in the activity log, okay? But for the sake of, the report, let's name it the amount of clicks. And the first thing we're gonna do is, okay, we have our Power BI log, table. So we are going to filter this, saying that the activity is view report. And once we have all these rows, we're going to count the rows. Okay, so this is the amount of openings that we have got. Let me just go back here to uncomment this, and I'm gonna run it, and we have it there, okay? So you see clicks per day, that's it. Now for users, what is the distinct users accessing our dashboards? So here we can use again the Power BI log. We have a user ID there, but we have different ways of doing this. We can just do distinct count of the Power BI log, user ID. And let me just uncomment this. So this is the distinct users per day. But this is the nice thing about DAX, the flexibility that gives us to build the same query with the same result, but just using different formulas. No? For example, there is another way, which is we can just get the distinct list of user IDs using values and do the count rows there. No? Or we can even do it in a different way using a pattern that Alberto Ferrari, Marco Russo use a lot, which is, okay, we get the distinct list of users, but we iterate over that list and we sum one, okay? All of them are giving exact same result. So if I go to users here, same result. If I just remove this underscore, same result, okay? So let's keep it like the first one. So let's keep the first one and the second one commented. And let's continue. Now we want to get and I will go back through the demo into this. So let's now create our monthly active user. So the first thing we said was we want to get the distinct users over the last 30 days. Okay. So let's start. We're going to create a bunch of different variables. So days, in this case, is 30 days. We may want to go 45 and 50. In this case, 30 days. Now we need to calculate the current date, which is just the max of whatever is in the filter context that we have in our report. If we have 1 week, the max day of that week will be there. If we have just 1 day selected, will be that day. If we have a month, it will be the last day of the month, okay? Then we want to go and get a list of those 30 days back, okay? And for that, we can just go and use the dates between. First of all, we need to tell DAX where is the column with all the dates. And we need to use our current date as the date where we are going to go back 30 days. And we want to go minus days, minus 30 end day, okay? Then this is the result. And let me just return result. And what we're going to do here is to debug a bit, what is this? What is this particular set of days? Can we do that? So let's use concatenate X. We're going to iterate over that list, that table. Right now we have a table here, which is the list of days, the last 30 days, over the current filter context of the date. So I want to iterate over this, and I want to print the day. So let me just use this. So let's run it now. I'm going to uncomment this. it will be days. Sorry, there was dates in period. And it's day. Okay, so sorry, I mean I got dates in between instead of dates in period DAX formula. So now we have per day the set of the last 30 days. So from the 17th of February in this data set up to the 19th of January. Okay, for every single day you can see that it's changing. No, so now that we know that this is working, what we just need to do is to get our calculate of our KPI that we have built on top, which is the users. And let me just use the first one first, users. And we are going to modify the filter context by setting period. This table, sending this table as a filter for the user KPI. So if I run this, in around 5 seconds, I get the 850 users, which were the same 850 users that we had in our engagement KPI here. Okay, good for the monthly active user. But now it took 5 seconds, right? What is going on behind the scenes? Actually, DAX Studio has this advanced feature, is server timings, where we can understand a bit more. And I'm not going to dig in much into this, but I want you to see the difference between the 3 implementations we have done on the users and how important is to have the core KPIs as optimal as possible to then build KPIs on top of those, which are optimal and can be reused across different dashboards without impacting the user experience. So I just click on server timings. I'm going to run it again. And one thing that you will see, is going to take 5 seconds, is once it's back, first of all, it's using a lot of CPU. Okay, let's see. It's using a lot of CPU. It's taking 2.7 seconds in this case. And I want you to see that there is one particular operator here, the distinct count, that, for example, is happening as well in the count rows values. I'm going to just run it again. Another 5 seconds, around 5 seconds. But we're going to see a big difference in the last one, some X distinct. Okay. So again, the distinct count is there, operator. But if we just run this against the last one, the sum X distinct, boom, 100 milliseconds, no CPU, almost no CPU. And actually, there is no distinct count. Operator is just a count. The only downside is that the data cache that is sent to the formula engine has bigger rows than the other ones. In any case, I'm just saying this to highlight that depending on how, the flexibility of DAX is quite dangerous, and we should always measure the performance because it can really vary from one implementation to another very easy. Okay, so we're going to keep this pattern, and this pattern is actually sometimes not performing that well. Okay, and that's why there is no final answer on this. Just measure, measure, measure. Okay, so let's go back to this. So we have the monthly active user now, and now we can just do the weekly active users. So instead of going the last 30 days, we just go 7 days. Not only that, we can go and do the daily active users. Instead of going just 7 days back, we go 1 day back. Okay, so I come here, I just comment this thing, and I run it, and that's it. Our monthly, weekly, and daily active users. Okay, but actually, I'm just cheating a bit here. If I remove this filter, which this filter is removing only the or keeping only the working days and not weekends. If I remove this and I run it, you can really see that the daily active users and the numbers are really impacted by the weekends. Okay, so how can we really do a more advanced measure that makes that smoother? Okay, so we are going to call it average monthly active users. And for that, I'm going to come here. And what we are going to do is actually, we are, instead of running the last 30 days, the distinct users, we are going to run this against our current monthly active user measure. So let's call it average monthly active user. And what we want to do is an average of the last 30 days. And for each day, calculate the monthly active user. No? Can we do this? Of course, we can do this. We can just get out and already get this done. However, that is going to be, let's say, hard coding or removing this, hard coding this filter context directly in the average X. That it doesn't matter what we do on top of this, that we will always run it against those last 30 days and those 30 days in the period. So even if we want to exclude things, I don't know, exclude Wednesdays, exclude weekends, exclude anything here, doesn't matter what we do on the final table. We want to get the logic internally to handle those weekdays only. Then this is going to not work. So in this case, we can just get values, date. So then it means now we are impacted by the filter context on whatever we are doing. And of course, we can just get a calculate. And we can just put period here. And we can even go further and say, I want only the weekends, the weekends out. So the code can be only in working days. Okay. So let me just see if it's closed. Let me just run it. Everything is fine. Let's run it. Okay. So nothing has changed. But if I go back and I remove this, nothing has changed here. Okay. So look, this is exactly what we wanted to do. Now we can just copy and paste. Now you can really see that this is moving the weekends. So we can do the weekly one for the last 30 days, calculate the weekly active user. We can do as well the, we can do as well the average daily active user. So for the last 30 days, calculate the average of the daily active user. And all this will be working here fine. Let me just uncomment. And actually, I am going to create as well all the ratios. DAU versus monthly active users ratio, which is going to be divide the daily active users by monthly active users using best practices, which is the divide function that is performing well and is not having any issues on the dividing by 0. So the daily active users against weekly active users, and the same thing for the average ones. Okay, so we are almost done with this demo. So let's now uncomment this. And boom, this is exactly what we were expecting, 38.1 daily active users versus monthly active users, which is exactly the 38.1 percentage that we have here. Okay, so in this particular, the green one is 38.1, the first one. Good. So let's go to the second demo. On this, I want now to build the retention curve. So on the retention curve, if you remember, we were looking at, let's say, hard-coded axis, which is 30 days. And for those 30 days, the amount of users, distinct users that are coming, that amount of days depending on the axis. So 19 distinct users are coming 20 days. 28 distinct users are coming 19 days, okay? How do we do this in DAX? So in this case, what we are going to do, we are going to, let me just copy the same template, an empty template, for us to start working with the DAX from 0. So I'm connected. You know this pattern. But before that, we want an axis which is having just 30 values from 1 to 30. So we can even do it ourselves here. We can simulate that. So days active and generate series from 1 to 30. Actually, let's evaluate this to see how does this look. So I execute it, and yes, I have a table from 1 to 30. But the column name is value, and the idea is that we have a DAX columns that we can copy paste and into our model to create this calculated table inside Power BI. So here we go. We have 30 values, and the column is days, is named days. Okay. So now we can rename it to days and days. Okay. So now going back, let me just remove this and let's continue. So going back to our KPI, the user retention KPI. So we already have the axis, which is this DAX, that days active. And now we need this KPI, user retention. You know already the pattern. So the amount of days we want to go back, the last day, which is the max of the date, and the period. Okay. And now what we're going to do, we're going to split this in 2 steps, this measure. The first one is to just get, for that amount of 30 days, a table that has 1 row per user, and we will get for each user the amount of distinct days that that user joined our platform over the last 30 days. Okay. How do we do this? We're going to summarize PBI log by PBI log user ID. Okay. And we want to have an extra column saying the distinct number of days that that user came, right? And following best practices, and I'm using here summarize because summarize columns will not work if you deploy this as a KPI in our Power BI model. So you need to use summarize and add columns. Then we are going to add days active, an extra column, which is going to be the distinct number of days, which we already know the pattern. SumX distinct of PBI log, date code, and we sum for each of these distinct days, we sum 1. Okay. Of course, this is not going to work because we need to add calculate to make the context transition happening. For each user ID, we want to execute this formula. And if we, we want to make that that context transition to happen by filtering row by row, iterating row by row, user by user, and filtering this per user. Okay. So calculate of this particular formula. Now this is working, but of course we need to add here our 30 days. We want this to be executed against the 30 days, the range of the 30 days, which is impacted by our filter context in the dashboard. Okay. Now this is a table. So let's see, let's rename it as user days. And of course, we want to know what is behind the scenes. Okay. So, okay, let's debug this. Again, same formula, concatenate X of user days. And what we want to do is I want to see the user ID. And I want to know the number of days that that user ID opened our dashboards. So we need to get the extra column that we have in this particular virtual table, virtual data cache that we have here. Days is not exactly a data cache, but the virtual table that we're calculating here, okay? This is a table of 2 columns, the user ID and the days active, filtered by the last 30 days of our filter context. So days active, I'm going to use left just to not show the full user ID. And because I want this to be more friendly when we print this in the results panel in DAX Studio, I'm going to add a new line for each row, okay? Which this is adding unit chart 10 into the context concatenate X. So if I execute this, let me just check if everything is fine. So user IDs, yes, yes, yes. If I execute it, we have for each day the same, no? All the users and how many days those users came into our platform. Fine, but now we want, because for each row we will have exactly the same data. We want that for each row we exactly filter only the users that came that amount of days in that particular table. So the concatenate X works. Now we're going to do bar result, and it says, first of all, not this. We need to know where we are in the axis. No, they selected equals to selected value of our dimension, which is our x-axis. Days active, days. Okay, so we know now this column where we are, and the second one will be result, filter, the previous virtual table user days by what? By days active equals to our selected day. Okay, and we have all the rows, all the users that are fitting into this particular filter. And the last thing we need to do is just to count rows. This to then get the final KPI, which is telling us the amount of users. So the amount of users, as we have 1 row per user, is just the count rows of this filter. So we just run this. And of course, we have now for every single day, exactly the amount of users that we have here. Of course, if we want to go further, we can not only filter the last 30 days, but at the same time, only to include the working days, achieving the 153, which are the same 153 that we have here. Okay. So just going back to the demo, going back to the slides, these are the 2 demos. Just to finish, we can even go one step further on this and even use this to measure our performance as a team in the whole company, okay? By using metrics, and I'm not going to show you how to create that, but just for you to see that we may want to create those metrics and then even assign those metrics to the different people inside the team, my team. So I can review with them if we are really growing in terms of engagement, if we are growing in terms of not only monthly active users, we are growing, but we are growing in terms of engagement or dropping, and even by area, the reports that are commercial reports, the supply chain reports, and really to see what marketing actions we need to apply for them to get them back into the platform. No? So just to show you this live in the mobile as well. So I'm going to share my screen. And this is something that you may see right now. You may see my screen in my mobile. Okay. So now if you go to the metrics, you really can see in your application, in your mobile, every single day, exactly where we are in terms of engagement. So if we are growing, if we are not growing, and this is again for some development environment, if we are growing, not growing, and to take actions with the different stakeholders, which in this case is my own team. We are discussing internally where to put some actions and how to get more people into our platform. Okay, so just going back to the slides, the only thing that I will recommend, these 2 books are always a must for any Power BI developer or even data warehouse developer. The first one, the Data Warehouse Toolkit from Kimball, and really the definitive guide to DAX from Marco Russo and Alberto Ferrari, which is for me the top 1 book when we want to go really the next level in Power BI. Okay, so any questions? I'm here now to answer all of them, and in case you don't have them, but you try to implement this in your company, and I really encourage you to implement this there, and you cannot tell how many times that was useful even for the executive committee to really see what is the evolution of the whole platform, what is the investment, and really to put in numbers how data-driven are we. Okay, so if you have any questions, this is the email and the contact details in case you want to send them to me.
We have a couple of questions from the guys and girls here.
We sure do. I think without sort of bigging you up too much, Ruben, we've had some good comments here. I'll give you a selection here. Kudos to Ruben. Complex stuff, but so well explained. Amazing, Ruben. And so on and so on.
Thank you very much.
So anyway, we get to the first question. So conceptually, Ruben, this is great. Assuming I don't want to engineer a monitoring and reporting solution to do all this, is there a pre-rolled Microsoft-focused framework that I can just pick up and use to do all this?
No. There is one thing that you can get, which is the let me just go back and show you. They already predefined applications, Power BI applications, to measure the capacity, no, the capacity metrics and so. Okay. This is quite technical, really. It's not telling you the business side of, how data driven are you. You can really see which queries are impacting your performance, CPU, top data sets, and all this. But really, I haven't said anything about all this in my whole speech. The key thing was really to see the user experience, and you cannot measure that directly from this. However, this is something that I can share the template, and you need to build and to collect all these APIs, the output of all these APIs, the activity log and all this. But it's, at the end, not a very big engineering project to do. We have a bunch of dimensions, really, not like a big deal. And it's worth the effort to do it with all the benefits you can get, okay? So really with the template and what we have seen today, the first phase of the whole dashboard is almost done, okay?
Interesting. So the next question is related to this. The usage reports, the actual Power BI that shows the usage of the Power BI, would that affect the results of the usage reports?
No.
Or do you create custom filters and importance of what data to include in the usage reports?
Behind the scenes, the usage report does exactly similar stuff. They have a log, they keep it for 30 days. And, it's this typical Power BI thing, no? Like they give you the feature and they remove all the complexity for you to build that, no? So you enable the usage report, and the usage report behind the scenes is storing this log and is querying the log, getting really small or simple KPIs. You cannot really do exactly the same, but it will not impact anything. At the end, that log is a private log that Microsoft has. You cannot touch it. You can create reports on top of it. You can connect to the data set of the usage report and the application of the Power BI capacity metrics, but you cannot really touch that. That is a immutable log behind the scenes that you cannot touch. But what we are saying here is the same log, the same input, you can query that through Data Factory and store it into a data lake. You can even do that in a data flow, Power BI data flow, and store it in a data lake, and then you build your own model on top of that. And again, the modeling side of this, I can really tell you this table, which is the log, this table, sorry, this one, is exactly one-to-one of what you get when you store the API log into this. There is no transformation, not data cleansing, not complex stuff. So really, it's super easy to get all these insights once you get that API activity log stored in our lake, okay?
Perfect.
It's a one-to-one.
Okay, well, we'll move on to the next question then. So I love the fact that you're looking for a commitment up front from the report consumers, in terms of how many clicks they are committing to, which obviously informs your return on investment. But I wonder if you ever experience pushback from those people requesting those reports. From my personal experience, people don't like committing to things. This is something that you experience.
Yeah, so yes, and the answer is 100% yes, but it's always all about maturity, no? It's, for example, when you start having agile methodologies, even including the business stakeholders, at the very beginning, they say, well, no, I want this report and I want this done. Don't tell me sprints, don't tell me stuff, okay? I want this done, period. Until you start, mentoring them, showing them the benefits, showing them that we can really get more value, and we can even, at the end, when they click, they are the first ones interested on knowing that their team, the team members globally, are using it. because those reports are actually built from top business stakeholders, but not for them to be used. They want all the countries to use it. They want all the, the team members to use it. They even use this particular dashboard to even call the different people, like, why aren't you using this? Okay, so yes, there is always a mentoring phase at the beginning. The commitment, to be honest, this return of investment and the commitment on clicks is something that we added not that far, okay? But at the very beginning of this, and this is already a few years working, we didn't have that commitment KPI, but it's now quite useful now that we have the maturity of the people to understand that they can see the engagement on everything we do. So yes, slowly they will understand and see the value.
So Joseph has a question, but Joseph also knows how to get the correct answer. So he begins his question with, this is a master class, but are you able to measure anything for self-service usage versus the built reports?
I usually say yes. Some people say it depends, but I mean, the answer is yes, because the API activity log gives you the full log for the full Power BI tenant. Okay, so you can really see as well. You need to be an admin of the Power BI tenant to get this, but you can really see the activity even in the self BI on all those reports and data sets that they are building that are not under our control. Yes, the answer is yes.
So the report is built against the model pretty much then?
Correct.
Yes, good.
And we get records from that activity as well in this thing.
Well, next question. So I know that you're querying directly against the logs themselves, but do you ever see a time where you're going to need to have to challenge the complexity of your DAX maybe and pre-process the data through something such as, I don't know, as your Data Explorer as one option, I guess, or do you foresee it always working performantly?
Yeah, I mean, I guess, Mark, the question is if we really use even queries in Custo to dig in a bit more on the log and get, the answer is yes. I mean, not for this, of course, but we do have we have more pages and more, more actions that the more technical team does, which is, for example, every query has behind the scenes all the pieces required, which are called, vertipack scans and all these things. We use it a lot to run and understand which queries are hitting the big tables, because we have our own aggregation, some tables that are aggregated and we're using aggregations on top of Power BI. But we were using even that in Azure Analysis Services, which doesn't allow aggregations. So we built our own aggregation system by bringing aggregated data and the queries, the DAX, to understand which filters are applied, to then go to the small table, the intermediate table, or the big table, to really avoid always to go to the big table for very aggregated data. No? So we built that. How to build this? We were really going, for us, the log analytics is key. We are keeping the log analytics is for free for the first 30 days, and you only pay for the storage, no? But you can extend that to as many days as you want. Well, I don't know as many days, but long enough to keep for 1 year, 2 years or so. We are keeping it even almost for 9 months or something like that, because we really check what is the evolution of the queries and what are those queries hitting, what are those queries hitting, or which tables are being hit by them, to see patterns in terms of end of month queries are different than, end of quarter queries, or the Monday queries are different from, the regular daily queries. Because on Monday, they want to see the previous week, full previous week. Then during the week, they just see previous day, but they want to see always the previous picture. All this is stored in the log analytics, but the log analytics has not only the query, but all the events happening behind the scenes. So you can really see the vertipack scans, if something was cached, if there was a hit on an aggregation, everything is there. So we can measure that, but that is another story. This is the second piece of this dashboard. We have all this kind of analytics on top of that, checking if we are now having less ratio of cache or less ratio of aggregated, hits to aggregations, to really, again, see that there is an impact on the user experience, on this. So yes, we're using it, Mark, a lot, and a lot. We run a query that tell us what is the top queries or top aggregated data that may be solving 80% of your queries. And we get those and we create tables based on that. So we use them to drive our aggregation engine.
Final question. This from Joseph. Do they handle any GDPR when it comes to tracking user IDs, etc.? Do you need to track any GDPR concerns, Ruben, for this solution?
It's an internal solution for my internal company. It's not, being
Yeah.
selling data across, and we are trying to. It's like when you have app analytics or app insights in Azure, and you are just understanding how everyone is behaving. So, to be honest, I haven't thought about it, but at the end, we are just keeping just the user ID, which is the user ID of the person, and how they use how do they access all these things. I haven't thought about it, to be honest.
And I guess if it was an external reporting solution, that might be a consideration, but then your users might be anonymized in some way, wouldn't they?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
A great answer to a great presentation and to all the questions. I can only say a big, huge thanks to Ruben for delivering this session.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much for the opportunity to share this with the people. I really, really value that if someone at the end ends up building this in the company, for me, this is already a win, because it was already like a big win for us. And it's already something that for me is, I don't foresee any new project not having such a solution to measure the success of it.